Hello, my friends. Today's recap tells a gripping drama about a woman stuck in an unfulfilling life who finds herself drawn to a mysterious gardener that gives her the care and attention. She's been missing, but soon she discovers he's hiding a dark secret. So what is it? Let's find out. The movie starts in the US with a girl named Catherine. She's an unknown actress who's only done 2 films. Catherine is married to a wealthy film producer named Richard. Just 2 days ago, Catherine was sexually assaulted in her own home. The story flashes back to 2 days earlier, at the time of the incident. Catherine is at a gas station when a red car pulls up next to her. After she finishes, the red car follows her all the way to the gate of her villa. She lives in a very upscale neighborhood. When she enters the villa's garden, she notices it's messy and neglected. She starts looking for George, the gardener, but he's nowhere to be found. Then she gets a call from the landscaping company. A guy, who sounds like he has a Mexican accent, tells her George got fired because he was arrested by the police. But he reassures her that they'll send someone new right away. Shortly after, a guy named Ben shows up at her door. He says he's the new gardener sent by the company to replace George. He tells her he'll start the next day so he can bring the tools he needs. As he's about to leave, Catherine realizes the villa door is locked from the inside, and she doesn't have the key. Ben offers to help but makes her promise not to call the police about what he's about to do. She agrees. He pulls out a piece of metal, slips it into the lock, and manages to open the door. Catherine thanks him and asks about George. Ben says he doesn't know him personally but confirms what the company guy said about his trouble with the police, without going into details. Then he leaves. Later, Richard, Catherine's husband, gets home. While they're having dinner, she asks him to recommend her for a role in a movie his company is producing. He says he'll try, but the best he can do is add her name to the list of candidates. He explains that even though he's the producer, he can't force the studio to cast her. He wants her to succeed on her own. Catherine agrees. The next day is the day before Catherine's assault. Ben shows up in the morning with his truck and tools, and starts working on the garden. After a few hours, Catherine offers him lemonade because it's hot outside. She thanks him again for helping her with the door the day before. They sit and chat a bit. She tells him she's an actress, but sadly not a well-known one. Ben tells her he was originally an engineer before working as a gardener, and gives off the impression that he's talented and knows a lot about many things, just unlucky in life. She also tells him her husband is a producer, but she doesn't want him to help her get a role in his movie, she wants to make it on her own. Ben smiles and says her husband should help her because that's his duty as her partner. Catherine starts to feel uncomfortable talking about her personal life, so she thanks him and heads back inside to clean the house. Then she starts rehearsing for the role she wants to audition for. After that, Catherine begins to rely on Ben for a lot of things because she starts seeing him as dependable. He sets the table for her, fixes her car, and she even invites him into the house. She gives him a copy of the film script and asks him to play the role of her lover so she can practice with him in case she gets the part. She performs her scene in front of him with a lot of emotion and even breaks down crying. Ben reads lines from the script back to her while the camera films her. But Ben quickly feels like the dialogue is kind of dumb. Catherine gets upset and offers him money for his help, but he refuses because he feels like she's treating him as if he needs the money. He gets offended and leaves. Catherine runs after him and apologizes, telling him she thought he was mocking her work. He apologizes too and says he didn't mean her performance was dumb, just the script. In fact, he thought her acting was amazing. He tells her she has a lot of beautiful things in her life, but sadly she doesn't seem to enjoy them. Unlike him, he's poor, he's even been to jail, but he's smart, has skills, and could be useful to others. He also says he's honest and hates lying. He keeps talking, trying to earn her sympathy. She starts to feel for him, especially because he's fulfilling an emotional need her husband isn't, since Richard is always late at work and never has time for her. Catherine actually starts looking at Ben with admiration. She watches him through the villa windows. Later, Richard arrives home and tells Catherine that he's flying to San Francisco the next day, just for one day, and will return the following day. That day ends up being the day Catherine is assaulted. Suddenly, there's a loud noise coming from the villa next door, which is supposedly empty. Catherine sees Ben standing by that villa, even though he's not supposed to be working that day. He tells her he met someone named Ed who recently bought the house next door. Through casual conversation, Ben finds out that Catherine's husband, Richard, left early that morning. Ben then asks if she'd like to grab breakfast together, but she offers something else. She'll cook breakfast for the three of them right there at the villa. Ben agrees and calls Ed over. The three of them sit by the pool and chat while eating. Catherine learns that Ed bought the villa because he has a lot of money. He owns a mobile app that generates a solid income. He hands her his business card and goes on talking endlessly. Catherine starts feeling like Ed might be mentally unstable, so she excuses herself to go prep the food. Ben follows her to the kitchen, pretending he wants to help. He starts asking her personal questions, like how she met her husband, where, and when. From her answers, he realizes she really loves her husband, especially since he made all her dreams come true. But Ben brings up the fact that her husband didn't give her a role in his new film. Catherine reminds him that she already told him she wants to earn the role on her own. Then Ben says he watched one of her movies last night and really liked it. Catherine smiles and thanks him, asking him to finish setting the table while she changes clothes since she's heading to the airport later that night to pick up her husband. When she comes back, she finds out that Ben and Ed have entered the house, opened the fridge, and taken out some beers. Ben apologizes for taking the beers. Catherine is a bit surprised, but tells them it's okay. Ben asks her to play some music, so she puts on classical music. Then he asks her to dance, and they actually start dancing. They get closer and end up kissing, while Ed sits watching them, clearly irritated and drinking. But Catherine suddenly walks away, distancing herself. She starts tearing up, thinking about what just happened between her and Ben. Behind her, Ben and Ed whisper something to each other, but their voices aren't audible. Then out of nowhere, Ed grabs his stuff and leaves the house, leaving Ben alone with Catherine. She asks why he left, and Ben says, "Forget about him, he's just messed up in the head." Catherine then asks Ben to leave too, but he begs her to let him stay just a little longer. She tells him she needs to go to the airport to get her husband, even though his flight isn't due for a while, but really she's just making up an excuse to leave and avoid continuing what started between them. But she ends up giving in. Ben stays with her. They keep dancing and drinking until she completely loses control. She becomes so drunk she's no longer aware enough to drive or even get to the airport. Ben carries her up to the bedroom. And now, we return to the beginning of the movie, but this time from the perspective of Duco and Otis. These are their real names, not Ben and Ed. We see Duco and Otis walking out from the mountains, carrying 2 bags with all their belongings. They clearly look like criminals. They spot a gas station ahead and go in. Duco uses his rugged look to ask the guy working there for water, beer, and cigarettes, for free. He even makes it clear he doesn't care if he ends up in jail. The man gives them what they ask for. They sit on the ground inside the station, and that's when they first see Catherine. She walks out of the convenience store toward her fancy car to fill it up with gas. She looks wealthy, and they don't have much money, so Duco suggests they follow her to find out where she lives. At the same time, a red car is getting gas. Duco starts talking to the guy driving it, and finds out his name is Ed, and that he has a hookup scheduled at a hotel. When they see Catherine getting ready to drive off, Otis asks, "So what's the plan?" Duco replies, "We're gonna follow that woman and rob her. I'll make sure you get close enough to sleep with her." They both jump into Ed's car and threaten him with a knife, forcing him to follow Catherine. Ed obeys. He has no choice and no one around to help. They follow Catherine to a fancy neighborhood. When they see her park in front of a villa, they figure that's her house. Duco steps out and threatens Ed, saying if he talks, he'll find him at that hotel and kill him. Ed swears he doesn't know them and quickly leaves. Duco then tells Otis they're not just going to rob the house. He has a better plan, one that will give them control over Catherine herself, and even the house. They start watching the villa, and see a gardener working there named George. Duco notices George looks Latino, and also sees that the villa next door is empty. Duco opens Catherine's mailbox and looks through the letters. He finds out her full name, her husband's name, and the exact address. Then he calls the police pretending to be Richard, Catherine's husband, and reports that their gardener is living in the US illegally. Then the police show up right away and arrest George. That explains how George the gardener suddenly disappeared from the villa. After that, Duco quietly opens the door to the empty villa and sneaks in with Otis. They settle inside without anyone noticing, and start spying on Catherine and her husband in their villa. Through this surveillance, they learn a lot about their lives. Duco already knows the name of the gardening service company, so he calls them pretending to be a customer. An employee answers, and Duco learns his name. Now he has all the information he needs for his plan. He then tells Otis to call Catherine and pretend to be that same employee. He tells her that George the gardener has been arrested, and that they're sending over a new gardener instead. This is how Duco sets up his plan with Catherine. And he shows up pretending to be the new gardener, using the name Ben. The very next day, which is just one day before the incident with Catherine, he shows up with a truck and garden tools, stolen from the company, and starts working in the garden. The whole plan is to gain access so they can rob Catherine and her husband, since they probably have a safe full of money and jewelry. On top of that, they want to assault Catherine because she's attractive. The movie continues until we reach the point where Duco gets Catherine drunk. He gives her a lot of alcohol, carries her to her bedroom, and then brings her to the empty villa next door. He leaves her on the bed for Otis to rape her, and then plans to kill her afterward. But Otis can't go through with it. He can't assault her or kill her. He feels bad for her, and she ends up escaping and running back to her own villa. Duco loses it. He throws Otis into the swimming pool, follows him in, stabs him with a knife, and leaves him floating in his own blood. Then Duco goes back to Catherine's villa to kill her, but she manages to call the police and runs out to the pool. There, she finds Otis in the water and tries to get someone to help save him. She jumps in to try to rescue him herself, but Duco grabs her and tries to drug her again. Catherine presses on his wound and manages to drown him in the pool. At that moment, Richard arrives at the house. He had gone to the airport and didn't find Catherine waiting, so he got worried when she didn't answer his calls and rushed home. Richard and Duco confront each other near the pool, and Duco tries to stab him, but Catherine quickly runs inside the villa, grabs a gun, and shoots Duco dead, saving her husband. Afterward, we see Catherine starring in the movie that her husband is producing. She finally landed the role thanks to her determination and hard work, and the traumatic experience she went through became the perfect training for the role. And that's it, the movie ends here. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the like button. Leave a comment below, I'll reply to all of them. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.